Welcome. This project is similar to going on a quest. You set out thinking you will take but a short time and you will be done and you will return. But then you get sucked out to sea and sail the seas for many, many months, if not years. Perhaps even for the rest of your life. Now, this project did not take up the rest of my life, but it did take significantly longer than I thought it would, and it threw several nasty surprises at me. Similar to going on a quest, I set out on this journey, unsure of what the final result would be. This is a project that incorporates several techniques and methods that I have never utilized before, so I was sailing in uncharted waters. Luckily, this project was a gift for a friend of mine, so regardless of how it turned out, I would get plenty of respect and credit and people would tell me how good it was. Now, for the past minute or so, you've just seen me break down wood and cut it into bits and pieces. Fairly simple stuff. But here's where things got a little bit weird. I decided to implement a technique that I don't think anyone on YouTube has ever attempted. I do not own a dado stack. So instead of buying a dado stack, I simply put 2 blades of death in my table saw at once. I do not recommend this at all, and it's a fairly foolish maneuver. And it's fair to point out that I use a face shield and my hoodie of protection, just in case something went terribly wrong while using this method. But for real, this was a really stupid idea, don't do what I did. I then used this double stack to cut thick finger joints for the box I was making. The joints were far from perfect, so it was time to bring out the file and spend like 35 minutes filing it down so they would fit properly. This was one of the things that I was not counting on when I started this project, but it was actually kind of fun. This may look like this project is sailing along smoothly, but I was pumping with both hands trying to keep the water out that was coming in. One of the pieces broke after I had filed everything down for like 30 minutes, so I used some glue and blue tape to hope that fixed. You also don't see the countless times that I messed up the finger joints. This is an edited video, so you only see where I get it correct. With all the finger joints cut, I could cut a groove in the long side of the box to hold the top and bottom. This will make sense, just watch and then you'll understand what I mean by this. I was planning on making a box with a sliding lid and the lid with some fancy inlay in it. You'll see more on that later. Patience is key. Watch the whole video. How good. I then used a chisel to clean up the grooves that I had just cut. With all that done, it was time to remove the double blades of death and make them walk the plank. Enjoy this very fast singing. Then I cut off part of one side of the box so that the lid could slide in. Once again, this will make sense later. After countless hours of thought and meditation, it was time to go about making the lid of this box. I cut 2 pieces of 3/4 inch walnut and then planed it down to like 1/8 of an inch. In retrospect, what I should have done is cut the walnut down the center to get 2 thinner pieces and plane that down, because what I ended up doing was creating a lot of waste. But using the planer is kind of fun, so no regrets. While the glue was drying on the planer, I could sand down the groove that would hold the lid. I like how I said it was time to make the lid, and I showed 2 clips of me starting to make the lid, and then I go right back to assembling the box. But here you can see me using a hammer and glue and all sorts of mean, nasty other things to assemble the box. Some of the finger joints were really tight, others were kind of loose, so it was kind of difficult getting it all in place, but then once it was in place, it wasn't going anywhere. Rather than returning to me making the lid at this point in the video, instead I will show you how I put the bottom of the box in place. I cut down a piece of walnut until it fit perfectly in the groove I created, and then I used a hammer and glue to glue it in place. I guess the hammer was just used to... Oh, and okay, that happened too. Wow! I wonder if I should leave this in. That'd be kind of funny. Hammering and gluing isn't for another 30 seconds. Here I'm still working on making it a perfect fit. After it was very, very close, I took sandpaper and just sanded away where it absolutely needed it until it was a very snug fit. Still no hammer and glue yet. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. You see the glue, but where is the hammer? There is the hammer! In one moment, you will see me utilize the hammer to hit the bottom of the box into place. Enjoy. Now it is time to return to the making of the box lid. I cut down a piece of walnut and continued to cut thin strips off of it until it fit perfectly in the groove. Quick quote from Fred Armisen about hammers. Remember, there is no one way of doing things. If you just get a hammer and hit it really hard, whatever it is, I guarantee you, it will open. I'm not sure if he's talking about the item opening or the hammer opening, but regardless, moving on. Believe it or not, this box was actually for Sherlock Holmes, so I printed out a profile of Sherlock Holmes and cut it out on the scroll saw. Here is a Sherlock Holmes quote for you. "You have a grand gift for silence, Watson. It makes you quite invaluable as a companion." I've never really understood why invaluable and valuable mean the same thing. That's like saying incapable and capable mean the same thing. Here I am using a router to route out a recess to insert the cutout of Sherlock Holmes. That way it's like an inlay. You will understand shortly. Enjoy. While you wait for this understanding to come to you, I will bore you with yet another Sherlock Holmes quote. "My name is Sherlock Holmes. It is my business to know what other people do not know." With the recess cut out, I could write in a secret message that was about to be hidden, thus vanquished for all eternity. And this brings me great joy because I know plenty of people that I know may end up watching this, and they will be immensely curious as to what sort of hidden message I tucked away in this gift. But I will not tell them. I was lucky I taped the piece of wood down to let the glue dry, or else it might have tried to run away. When the glue had dried, I cut off the part sticking out on the table saw. Enjoy my very excited reaction when I realized the inlay actually worked.
Oh, bloody yes! Bloody yes! Yes! Oh my goodness, I saw it! Oh, yes! You, oh my word! Oh, yes! Yeah! I did not think that would work! Oh, wow!
Good reason I had to be excited because it fit very tightly. I then used a sander to get it all the way down flush, and then while I was at it, I sanded the rest of the project too. Here comes another Sherlock Holmes quote coming your way. How many times have I said to you that when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth? In order to have a satisfactory hand-holding session, there must be an equal number of fingers. And before I cut it off, the white pieces had one extra finger, so I needed to cut it off to make sure we were even. Be aware of the consequences of trying to hold hands with a person who has fewer fingers than you. You will get your fingers cut off in order to match.
Yes!
I then cut down a little chunk of wood to attach to the lid so that one could have something to grasp to pull it open. Enjoy watching the process of me making that, while I hit you with yet another Sherlock Holmes quote! This was when Sherlock Holmes was talking to his dear companion Watson. "You see, but you do not observe. The distinction is very clear." Notice the scroll saw wasn't actually on when I made that cut. I'm just very skilled in all things. I'm really not sure what I should be saying during this video. Whenever I try to explain what I'm doing in the video, I mess it up or just make it sound really weird. So I guess you guys are stuck with just a bunch of quotes and random thoughts I have. Enjoy. Check out my dedication I had to this spray bottle technique. It was powerful. The reason I was doing the spray bottle technique is sanding Paduak tends to leave a fine dust embedded in the grain of any other woods involved, so the maple had bits of red dust in it. This spraying with water and wiping it off eliminates that dust. Behold, then I applied a delightful finish. Enjoy. Perhaps I'll find yet another Sherlock Holmes quote to say during this. Let me see what I can gather. "Come here, Watson, come swiftly. The game is afoot. Not a word. into your clothes and come. I have no idea what the context was for this quote, but it seems interesting because it seems as though Watson was not a clothed man, and thus, before heeding the call to come swiftly, he had to clothe himself. Here I am lining the inside of the box with some soft stuff. Now back to the important business of some Sherlock Holmes quotes. Sherlock Holmes said, "I never make exceptions. An exception disproves the rules." Yet, if you will recollect with me, Sherlock Holmes commanded Watson to come quickly, but then made an exception and told him to put on his clothes. It seems as though that was a disproving of the rules. As this build video with a quoting commentary comes to an end, I will leave you with one more quote from Sherlock Holmes. This is actually a note that he left for his companion Watson. Watson, come at once if convenient. If not convenient, come all the same. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the detailed explanation of everything going on in the video. Until next time, go find some crocodiles. Yarhar! Yarhar!